So in week 9.1, we're going to do what we did last week, except we're going to do it for the household purchases, collecting, calculating, displaying. Okay, so we'll do this for the next couple of items just to build up the rest of the inputs. And I think it's just always a good review to kind of see how, when we're adding new inputs, where it all the code that needs to be touched. So in this case, have updated the breakdown and results table heading and add this into the form field set. I've already done mine. Here's what it should end up looking like right here. Okay, so I don't think I have, no, I have nothing in local storage, so I'll just go ahead for now. And I would say, do the same, just make sure we haven't actually done any coding yet. But I always like to make sure that, there's nothing else, and then I see that I'm ready to go. Okay. And then this one for the household purchases, I was looking at it and it was like, wasn't entirely clear what they meant, but so the idea here is determine how many household purchases you make each year. The number of new items you buy for your household definitely can affect your carbon footprint. If you buy a lot of new things, then it's higher, right? Than somebody who buys less things, but then also somebody who buys secondhand. So in this case, when I first read it, is if you buy more than 7 new pieces of furniture, electronics, other household gadgets, and add 10. And I first thought 7 of these and 7 of, it's not total. Because I was like, oh wow, okay. And then if you purchase between 5 and 7, add 8, 3 to 5, add 6, 3, less than 3, add 4. And if you purchase almost nothing or use secondhand, then give yourself 2. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to come back over here, right? I'm going to say that. I'm going to calculate. Cool, I see my points. I see there's none here, which would make sense. I haven't coded them. I would see here I have these are offline, meaning out of order. Shouldn't be offline, meaning not in line. So I can see that I have, in this case, purchases, the last one we done, but I haven't updated the table yet. But I did update it for, right? I should be seeing purchases. Yeah, purchases. Okay, so we're good to go. Okay, so now let's start like we did before. Actually, I used the last one as kind of a, okay, these are the steps we take. So we'll start with the form handler. All right, so I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to close this. I'm going to clear this. I'm going to go to my form handler and I'm going to be like, okay, so which one do I need for this, right? So in here, and I like to put these in somewhat order, but let's say, and actually remember what we did before, which I think is really helpful, is to grab the ID, because that way, by being consistent through the IDs you give, it also helps you set up the variables. So annual new items purchased input. Okay, so we know we're going to be getting a reference. So query, in this case, query selector. Okay. Oh, actually, it should have went under here. I just realized that. So if you caught that, go ahead and put them there. Okay. So in this case, okay, so we need both a input and we have one checkbox. So then we'd say, and we could do the same thing here, where we would go here, inspect that, and then it's nested in here is the ID. Okay, so we'd say input is equal to carbon footprint query selector. Cool. Okay, so now that we have access to both of those on the form handler, because we need those in order for the form handler, and this makes sense. Again, it's good review. that the form handler is handling all the code to reference the DOM, okay, meaning the DOM inputs that we're processing, okay, in our form. Okay, so we come down here, then we know we're going to populate, but first I always like to start with the one which is get your form inputs, okay? So I'm going to go here, and remember this is an object literal, so the last one wouldn't have a comma. Comma indicates a key and a value pair. So I'm going to add one. So in this case I still have, oh, actually I could grab the other one if I want. Sure, I could. I would. Label and right there. Okay. Now I could have added them in that way, but I'm going to do this. Now in this case, we're going to be talking about we're returning the key, right? We're getting the form inputs, and so annual purchased would be equal to parse int because it's an integer. Okay. And then I would say input dot value, or if there's something wrong with that input, just use 0. Oh, and can't put semicolon. This is an object literal. I'd put a comma. Okay. So now I could do only. Now I actually could have done that for that one as well. So the key of only second hand, okay, in this case would key, the value would be only second hand input dot checked. Okay, and because it's the last one, I don't need to add it. Now I'm going to come back up now to my populate, and in my populate, okay, so in this case, because remember what I'm doing here is I'm repopulating it on an edit value. It's going to be equal to, because I'm getting past an entry, which in this case is an object, which is why I need the entry dot, whatever the key is. Okay, so entry dot, in this case, annual items purchased, semicolon. Okay. Okay, that one, actually, let me just look at it just to make sure. And then I would say only second hand dot value. Only second hand is not a value, it is a checked. Actually, check the attribute, okay? Entry, it's going to be dot, second only, second hand. Cool, okay. So I modify it. So the last one in form handler, and we could at least test it afterwards, is to come here, right, and see what we need here. So annual, the input value would be equal to 0 on a clear. 2 L's in value, does it make sense? Okay. And then only second input, that would be, in this case, checked, because we're setting its attribute. We're saying it's checked attribute, which in this case we reference as dot checked, is equal to false. Okay, so I would at this point actually rerun, and I do still have my entry down there, so I could either do a new one or, right, just a one here, so I don't get any error messages. I could also look at my application to see what that one looked like, to see if I picked up, okay. So looking through here, good, right? There's my, and then my household purchases, where's that one? There's my second hand footprint. We're getting so much data in here. It's awesome. Oh, there we go. Annual new items purchased 0. Perfect. Okay, so we're at least capturing the items. We're not displaying them yet, right? Because this is the total. Okay, so now where do we move on to? The calculator. Okay, so then we move on to calculator. And I like to do side by side in this case. Now, here, And I probably will note up here that this is just to help you guide you through which ones you need to do, but in calculator we're going to actually write the new function. Okay. Okay, so let's do it right after the last one. So this is the helper function using the method we already talked about. Okay. It's going to take in the annual new purchases. Oop. Okay. It's also going to take in if it's second hand, and then it will return return the points. Okay. We'll say constant. We'll say calculate household household points. Is that right? Oh no, and that's really important to realize is that it would come up showing that because you've already done one, but you could do household purchases. Okay. Right, equal to function taking in annual purchases and only second hand. Okay, so function, right, looks good. So now let's think about our logic. Probably the thing you actually have to, the other stuff you just have to keep in mind, like why are we doing that? But here we're actually writing logic based on our requirement for how this is calculated. So one of the things here after reading this would make sense to me is actually start with, in this case, if they're second hand, we would just return that value. So unlike what we wrote for the water where we had to set the points because we had to actually run through 2 blocks, you don't really have to do that here. And a switch statement to me wouldn't make sense either. I would just say, hey, check that value, right? If it is truthy, okay, then run this, which is say return 2. Okay, and now you say else. And this is just another way to think. Okay, so if it's 2, just return. Now we have to actually do within certain ranges. So in this case, it'd make sense to do an else. And then in here, and this is how you see how the different configurations of the way you can write this code based on the kind of requirements that you have. So I would say if annual purchases is greater than 7, okay, then what do? Right? We return 10. And if you're not sure where I got that one, okay, so if it's greater than 7, so it's in this way I'm starting with my largest value, right, because then it wouldn't hit anything after that, and again I wouldn't have to think about doing ranges. So here, else if, okay, annual purchases are greater than or equal to 5, then return 8. Else if annual purchases greater than or equal to 3, okay, return 6. Let me make sure we're greater than or equal to 3, right? So then return 6. So in this case, right, it's 6, and then we'd say else if annual purchases is greater than 0, then what do we return? We return 4. And that's the interpretation of what they're saying here, right? If you purchase less than 3 items, right, so this one, the one above it is less than or equal, okay, so that would be less than or equal to 6. Less than 3, okay, so it'd be greater than 0, because if it got here, it's already done the check for greater than or equal to 3. So then we return 4. And so to really handle this idea, right, of you give yourself, if you're really only buying almost nothing, right, and it's second hand, or it's in this case kind of your default, right, because we handled that one up there, you'd just say else, your default case, return 2, okay, here. So we handled this in 2 ways. Like if for some reason, right, we have a logic check here, right? Then we do if else, right? If this is, right? Because again, it's kind of we're handling those in between, so it's greater than or equal to 3 because we've already checked greater than or equal to 5. So look at that, see if that helps. Just to give you another example of how to write logic. Okay. Okay, so now we come down here and we're like, okay, so before our total, we do const, we do household, purchases, and I'm not doing calculate, points. It's going to be equal to calculate household purchases, right? Remember what we're doing here is we're passing it, we're taking in data. In this case, we're referencing it as data. It is an object where we've used entry before, right? This is just where we're passing it, we're giving it a reference from something that more clearly defines what it is. Okay, so in this case, we'd say and data dot annual purchases, comma, data dot only secondhand. Cool. So that will return to us household purchases. So what the other thing we need to do is come down here. You know, I saw this last time, so I'm going to actually fix it now. You could talk about if it actually makes a difference, but it just kind of, I saw it last time and I was like, wait a minute, food actually had come before water. Because it's in an object, it doesn't quite matter as much, but I still like it to be there. Okay, so now in this case, it's not purchases, it's the key that we're setting up, which is footprint, will be equal to, oh, I guess I had it in there twice. Oh, well, okay, there you go. Household footprint would be equal to household points. Cool, and so since that's the last one, we don't need anything there. Okay, cool. So let's see if we have any errors just on our code from that. Alright, so I'm just going to do a calculate. Good, looks all good. We've already looked at the data before. Alright, good. So if we did another one, okay, so now we could look at the actual calculation. Okay, and now, oh yeah, we haven't updated that yet. Okay, and we don't see it in our table yet, but if we did look in here, then we would see household, house members. Oh, actually that was probably one from before maybe. So actually let's look at this one because yeah, okay. So that's where honestly sometimes what I would do is clear this because as I'm adding things into the object, I would want to make sure I have a clean a clean submission. Okay. So oh, actually not there. Let's do it here. Calculate. Cool. Come up here. Look at this one. Good. Okay. So again, we're not going to see them here because we haven't done these, but we can at least see 10 here. And then we see only secondhand false. Okay, cool. All right, so let's move on to the last part of this, which is really what we just talked about. We need to add it here and in our table. Okay, so I'm going to drop these two. So I'm going to go ahead and open results. I know I'm going to add a reference to this. Oh, by the way, there was some content here. Yeah, there we go. Make sure we add those. I'm not going to just because I'm trying to get through it, but I want you to, for the calculator, make sure you add those. So in case when you go back, you want to reference how that logic worked. Okay, so make sure we have that there. Okay. Okay, let's finish this up by doing our display. All right, so let's do const. Let's do household purchases. Foot. Oh, actually, I guess we could have went and got the key. That would have been nice. That would have been nice, huh? Made our life a little easier. Just to make sure I didn't. Ah. Oh, that's a really good point about that one. Oh, that's actually in the field set. My bad. That's a really good, and that's really, where it's like you kind of like when you go into autopilot when you stop thinking about what you're doing, which I just clearly did, right? Mm-hmm. So in this case, it was that, right? Household purchases. So now result query selector. Cool. Okay. So now we'd come down here, right? Household display dot text content. We're displaying the results. Okay. Household purchases. Okay, which would equal our template string results dot household purchases, but I'm going to get rid of the display. I am going to call to fixed, although we could talk about whether we need them here, right? Somebody would put a decimal. I guess they could, absolutely, right? So just being consistent, points. Okay. Okay. We are so close to being done. Okay. So what else do we need to do here? Well, really, I think it's only table render. Let's see, on table render, what do we need to do? We really only need to add here. Okay, so TD. We don't need to call any of our helper functions. Okay, so entry dot household. Oh, do I have it in memory still? Oh, I do. I can just get rid of that. Okay. TD. Oh, do not forget to put the forward slash. I think I did that last time. Created a bit of an issue. Okay. Wow. Okay, so now I would just, even though I haven't changed the data, I would still just do it. Okay, I'd do an actual first entry. And I would probably only put data right now in the one that I'm testing. So, and now you could talk about if you do this because of the check, it wouldn't read this value. Or maybe that's the idea of the way we wrote the logic, right? In case we wanted to make sure they may have put here and they did this. Well, we're only going to calculate based on that first check. Okay. So now let's go here, calculate. Oh, okay, we got an error. Okay, let me go look at that. To fixed household oh, did footprint twice on the results display right here. Looks like I did it because I was being too quick. Okay. Okay. So now it did get it, so I could hit edit here. See if it is, oh good, it did do that. And then I could make it, check this. Cool. Good. So 2 points there, which makes sense. Ah, now I get to look at purchases and why it is undefined. Okay, so I have one more error that are an error at on the table render. So my question would be for you and for me too, like where would I go look for that? I would immediately go into my table render just here to see if I could see what the issue was. Household purchases. Ah, here's what I would do, right? I would set my breakpoint. Remember, because of the fact that it's returning that entire row, I can't hit a breakpoint there. But, and the other thing is, I'll go ahead and hit edit here. Okay, it's found the entry that it's editing. All right. Which was the last one I did. Oh, did I delete it? No, I didn't delete it, right? Hit edit. Okay, yeah, it's still in there. Okay. All right, cool. All right, so why isn't it hitting the create table? So I hit update. So now I want to look at that entry. Ah, that's why. That's actually what hit me before with the way that was named, right? And 10 bucks says in here, yeah, and that's exactly what happened. See this? This was a key that I should have used because it's a key that was set up when we gathered the data. Let's see what it did. The return. Yeah, right here, right on the annual. Yeah, this is a case of not being consistent. Could definitely throw you off, and clearly it did for me. So I would come down here and I'd go, oh yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's see if that fixed it. Let it run, and that should be, oh yeah, there's nothing in there. Okay, so let's actually do an update, or just do a new entry here. Let it run, and then see. Good, yeah, good, that worked. Okay, that worked. All right, hope that helps walk through that. I think I will probably have mentioned something about the inconsistency, and we'll probably fix it by the time you've seen here related to that key and value and more of that. Anyway, so hope you got through this. Do your, and only for one, this only one commit. So nice. Actually, I'm gonna have this as finished update finished update for household purchases.